All right, welcome to PJ and the Beard. This is our 19 conversation series. This is, I guess, episode 26. And we're lucky today. We've had so many cool people on the show today. We're lucky enough to have Lawrence Petross join us. How are you doing, Lawrence?
I'm doing well. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to spend an hour with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So we were talking to Lawrence before this started. I said to him, we feel like we're almost at a little bit of a disadvantage here because I think up until now, everybody, either in the interview series that we've been doing or in this series that we've had as guests on the show, we've had the product and we've experienced it before. So we know what we're maybe a little bit about what we're talking about today. We know nothing. So it will be a nice learning experience for us to get to talk to Lawrence and hopefully for anybody that joins in. And so with that, I think we head right to the clip of the day.
Yeah, let's do it. So a lot of times, depending on the guest kind of influences the clip, it can be a mixture of like, oh, somebody flying under the radar or whatever, or maybe an artist from the pedal designer, or in some cases we've had players on. But so today I just kind of looked and went down Lawrence's Facebook channel, and we picked a clip from Daniel Newell doing a demo of the LPD 74. First time I'd heard him play, great player. He gets to feature the pedal really well. We might run longer than a normal 30 or 40 seconds, but that's what the clip is today.
Yeah, and if you've never heard of Daniel, I mean, I'm looking at his thing right now. Has a YouTube channel, and go out and subscribe to him too. Show him some love since we're stealing his video. All right, so let me switch this. Where do I need to go? Sorry, guys. Here we go. The guy has a nice guitar collection. There's some sweet guitars there. So what is that pedal? That's the 74.
Yeah, that one, 74 came out almost exactly a year ago. It is 1974. Marshall introduced the first master volume amplifier. So at the time, it would have been the JMP, I believe, series. But it was model number 2204, 2203. 2203 was the 100 watt, 2204 was the 50 watt. Same basic amp as the JCM-800, just with different faceplate, obviously, and all the trimmings. The first 2203s had a different circuit board. They were still PCB. They weren't hand wired they weren't point to point. They were still hand wired, but they weren't point to point. So that's like pretty much any of the late 70s Marshall sounds come from those amps. And then at the same time, there was a little bit of a bleed over with the metal face plexis. So from 1970 to 1974, Marshall made plexi style amplifiers, the Super Lead, which is the 1959, I think, is the model number for that one. 4-hole input, no master volume, same basic circuit as the original Marshall plexis, but it didn't have the plexiglass faceplate on it. It had the metal faceplate on it.
Is it like a 4-input model?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the Randy Rhodes, the amp he used was basically metal face plexi.
Okay.
So it combines those two circuits, and no switch or anything on it. Just if you want more gain, you just turn more gain up.
Then you're speaking Pat's language.
That's right.
Right. Yep. It's not enough gain. Just keep turning it up.
That's right. That's why they go to 11.
Exactly.
It sounded. I mean, in that demo, it sounded great. He was playing some really nice stuff too. But
yeah, he's a good player. Really interesting amalgam of techniques he used in that video. Some chicken picking, some outside jazz stuff. Yeah, it's a good player. Good player. I like that tune too. So
yeah, it was really good. It caught my eye. I mean, it happened to be one of the first I saw, and I'm like, I don't need to go any further. This does a great job of like demoing him as a player, and then shows the diversity of that pedal, what you can do, different pickup configurations, different kind of guitars. So, yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question looks like.
Well, it's not a question. Just JC was pointing out that RJ released a video today showing the differences between 68, 74, and 87. So as we're going through this today, not going to be a lot of playing. We'll hear a lot, but definitely go check out RJ's video and see what's going on with that, because we want you. One of the reasons we're doing this is we want people to, get out there and check out what Lawrence is doing. We normally do a pedal of the day, and a lot of times we show that pedal of the day, and it's one that we've had and tried out. And here's mine, right?
Yeah, I got the same one,
the same model.
Right,
I have that one right here. Here.
The sensitivity of this knob right here is fantastic.
Everybody says that. Yeah, about that particular thing. They say that all the time. Yeah. I'll have to look into what it actually does.
Yeah, I think we're on to something.
My Lawrence Petross tweed pedal right here. Right
there.
Right.
Super elusive pedal. That one.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we made it up today, but hashtag air pedal. I don't know if we just made
That's right. There it is.
We'll just do a plain black T-shirt and say this is my air pedal T-shirt.
This is the schematic, just plain black.
Let's do
everything that's inside is right here.
We just met and we're already collaborating. Let's do it.
So we're gonna have to rely on you to do pedal of the day today.
Okay. I've got a few of them sitting here by me that we can look at. Most of them are either prototypes or limited runs, just because I didn't have any of the production ones out. So maybe we'll do pedals, plural.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, some of the guys might have seen. Looks like I got a bad reflection on that. Sorry. So I'll tip it. Yep. Nope. It's not going to help at all. All right. Whatever. Here. Nope. That doesn't help either. So this is the Howie.
It does.
What's
look better than the air pedal?
Only slightly better than the air pedal, though. So this is the Howie. It was a limited run. I guess just before Christmas. It's my take on the Dumble lead channel.
Oh, cool.
Yep, it's a fun one. And then the kit pedal, which I don't know if you guys have. So I put together a kit. I was hoping to get it out before Christmas, but it didn't actually come together until quarantine time, which, everything happens for a reason.
Might be better than Christmas.
Right. Totally. So, and I think I only have this one and one kit left, and then they're all gone. And the guys who did the enclosures for me for the kit are shut down, so I can't get any more enclosures. So that'll have to be the end of them for, I don't know, maybe a few weeks, however long this is going to go on. I may be able to source some blank enclosures and then drill them here. But
so with the kit pedal, that's something that came in parts and people put together, soldered together themselves.
Yep. I include all the parts, circuit boards, basically everything except solder and a soldering iron that you need to do it, with documentation. And I did a build through video that's up on my YouTube page. So everybody who's done it said that it was one of the easiest. The guys who have built kits before said that it was one of the easiest kits that they've done so far. And then all my my first timers, no one has. Wait, I need a piece of wood to knock on. No one has actually said, "Hey, I had troubles with this." So that's good. I think that speaks volumes to the documentation, which I have to thank Brad Miller for. He did all the documentation for it.
So cool. I see he's in the chat.
Yeah.
What's your level of soldering skill have to be?
As long as you can flow solder, it'll because it's the pads are not huge, but they're not super tiny either. I think Rhett Schull did one on with Tilly on a live stream. They did it together, and I think he's only built one kit before that, and they built it through. She did some soldering, he did some soldering, and at the end, it fired up and it worked. So, I think as long as you, as long as you're aware that you put the soldering iron, the heated tip, you don't hang on to the heated tip. That's number one. Safety
Right.
first.
That's a hot tip, literally.
Safety first. Yes, always hang on to the handle. As long as you know that you heat the component in the pad first, and then feed the solder into where it's all touching until the solder flows. That's all you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's not quite rocket surgery.
I've changed some pots and stuff like that in guitars, change a pot, change pickup, or whatever, but I still
that's it. No, that's enough. That's enough. As long as you, and most of us have done that, right? Changed out pots or pickups or input jack on the guitar. You're right. Yeah, that's all you really need.
Awesome. All right, so we went down a little rabbit hole there because you hadn't got to the next pedal yet, I think.
Oh yeah, no, that's all right. Rabbit holes are good. So that was the kit.
Welcome to our world.
Right? I do that all the time. Shiny. What? What? So this one is this one's a prototype. This is the box of hayseed dirty, which I hope to have this one out maybe by end of summer. We'll see. It's finished. All the tweaking's done. And I sent this is prototype number 1. I sent number 2 to Ben with his package. I did I repaired a really old fuzz pedal for him, and I sent him a kit and the other prototype of this one. So we'll see what he has to say about it, just as a beta test kind of thing, see how it goes. But I think it sounds good. The toughest thing about this, so it's kind of my version of a Vox AC30 in a box. I still don't know what I'm going to. I'll probably just call it the Hayseed. I don't know. That's a good name.
You can call it the Box AC30.
Right. They get pretty touchy about that. So right. I think even Brian Wampler had some issues with what was he? I'm trying to remember what his was named. But it was a play on words, and I think he got a S&D from Vox. Something
on letterhead. The things you don't want to see.
Something with official letterhead. Yes, from their law offices. I would think it'd be cool even to do the grill cloth that they use. It's got the diamond pattern in it, but I think that's even trademarked for them. So I'd have to do something like totally way off and go, yep, no, it's just this. So
what do you think the time frame is on that? Of course, the whole world is in a weird state, and we can talk about that in a few minutes. But with you saying you got the prototype, you sent one out to Ben, who's on the chat, by the way, and so what do you think, maybe time frame wise, in a perfect world, which we're far from it at this point?
Well, in a perfect world, I would order the PCBs from my fab, and there's about a 2-week turnaround time with that, and I would order the enclosures from my enclosure vendor. And usually it depends on their load. Sometimes they can get them to me in 2 weeks. Most of the time it's about 6 weeks to get, because they'll do all the machining. They'll do the drilling and the machining, the powder coat and the artwork on it for me. I used to do all that stuff in-house, and then as I got busy, I just couldn't keep up with orders and do it at the same time. So I had to farm some stuff out, which I'm very, very, I feel very fortunate that we live in a world where one person can still run a pretty large volume business and not have to hire employees, be able to farm stuff out, keep it in the US. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Right.
So yeah, probably from finished prototype phase, probably 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually development of the circuit from scratch to prototype can take anywhere from, I've had them happen fast, divine intervention, where it was like, 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, this works. It sounds great. Don't know why, but excellent. And then it's like writing songs. To me, it's the same as writing songs. Some of them are just, you're a conduit from the ether, right? And others are like giving birth for 12 months, right? It's just, and there's nothing to say that the one that came in 2 weeks is going to be, quality wise would be lesser than the one that took 14 months to bring into existence. And a lot of times it's not. It's like when it comes that fast, it's like you kind of stay out of your own way, and
Right.
the good things happen, and you get great stuff. Granted, some of it's junk, but a lot of times it's really good. And occasionally I'll have one that I spent 14 months on and still have it turn out really good. But usually beyond a certain point, I find that you're just kind of beating a dead horse.
Mm-hmm.
And you should probably either repurpose the circuit for something else, or, set it in a box for a couple of years and wait for the rest of the world to catch up, because it's just not happening. So, yeah,
Well, that leads to a good question, I think.
Yeah.
We were, without talking about it, but we were talking about something similar, I think, earlier. When do you get to that point where it's like, I don't think that this one's going to happen. I'm going to put it in the box and set it over here. And
I'm a pretty obsessive problem solver, so I have a hard time putting those things down. Like if I have one that I'm working on, and I've taken it from the simulation program and built it into a circuit board, and it doesn't sound like I think it should, I'll spend way too many hours a day working on it, trying to figure out why. But and usually I do, probably at least 15% of the time, it's like, nope, for whatever reason, there's a problem in the design that changing component values isn't going to fix. I'll probably give, most of the time I end up, I think, giving problems like that 3 or 4 days, where I spend a couple of hours a day on it, so I don't know, maybe 10 hours, 15 hours, something like that total. And then I'm like, okay, I'll set it aside, because usually then I've got production stuff piling up and emails and stuff that I have to get to anyway, that I've, put aside so I could work on this problem of a pedal that nobody's even bought yet. So, yeah, it's a real problem. Then most of the time when that happens, if it doesn't come through right away, I'll go back to the design stage and see if there's something that I missed during the design phase that isn't allowing the sound that I had in my head, or the feel that I was hoping to get in my hands through that particular circuit. Sometimes I scrap them. I do have a box here that's probably got at least a half a dozen pedals in it that are never going to see the light of the day.
If they're beyond a breadboard, you're probably going to take them out of their enclosures and put something else in them and repaint them, right?
Yeah. I'll repurpose the enclosures for sure. I've got a handful of those around. They're like,
Right.
I use the JB weld, the metal epoxy stuff.
Right.
fill all the holes, re-drill it. Yeah. So it looks like it's polka dotted.
Because those are like gold right now, from what we're hearing, talking to some of your peers.
Yeah. You can't get stuff, right? It's small parts out of China have started to flow in. If you got like resistors and caps and knobs and things like that, if you source from China, those have started to flow out again. But yeah, getting stuff from the U.S. that from guys that have had to shut down because of the Corona thing is like no can do. Fortunately for me, whether again divine providence or not, I had just stocked up before everything shut down, so I've got enough to probably keep me going another month or two. So hopefully by then we'll either have it figured out how we can have people sitting 10 feet apart working, or some kind of way.
So Paul asked if said he uses the DCM-D a lot. Loves it.
Yep.
Killer pedal. Wants to know if it'll become part of your line in the future. You have to know what that is too, because
so DCM-D stands for Don't Call Me Dirty, which is a play on the Don't Call Me Shirley from Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, right.
Which of course then that it's actually my take on the Dirty Shirley from Friedman. So what he did was when the BEOD came out, there's a lot of hype over that pedal, and I think they sold a massive amount, and good for them. That's awesome, and it's a great pedal. And then the Dirty Shirley came out, I guess a year later, something like that, maybe a year and a half later. And so I was able to pick both of them up, and being a pedal nerd, I took it apart, figured out what made it tick. And in doing so, I saw some things that I probably would, if I was designing it or redesigning it, that I would change. And so those are the things that I did for the DCM-D. It's I don't know, you could definitely call it a clone of the Dirty Shirley. But it's got a few different things, like the Dirty Shirley. The DCM-D has 2 foot switches. So you have a bypass switch, and then you have a high-low gain foot switch, which the original Dirty Shirley and BEOD, they didn't have anything like that. The deluxe versions of those I think it's a 2-channel pedal, but the original in the smaller boxes didn't. So that's the DCM-D has that. And I changed the voicing of the low gain channel to where it was a little bit different, just because it's nice having the extra gain, but it's also nicer if you have the voice tailored to the gain level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did with that. It's a good one. As far as if it'll become part of the product line, I don't know. Possibly, more than likely, I'll just do another limited run of them sometime, or I'll just let everybody know I'm going to do another limited run. I think the original run of the ones that Paul got was I think I only made 15 of them, something like that, and they all sold out in I guess about a week. It wasn't like a day or 20 minutes or anything like that. I'm not that popular. But they did sell out pretty fast, so that's always a good indication. Either good design or I managed to accidentally hype it correctly, something, right? Yeah, I think I've only had one other that sold faster than that for a limited run, and that was the Lost Dutchman, which it's a fun pedal. I like that one. I think I did 2 runs of 20 of that, and those sold out in less than a day. So I was really surprised about that. So again, accidental success, but success nonetheless.
Right.
That's crazy. Paul did say he used it for one day and sold his Dirty Shirley. So I mean, that says something. Definitely. I have. If I play around with my computer real quick. So is this just the website? And the website, I believe, is down in the link, down in the information of the video. So if you go down there, you'll find it. But it's lordspetrossdesign.com. So this is pretty much the current line. What's on there?
Yes, there are. It's funny. I just reached for my mouse to scroll.
I have to do that for you.
That's it. Yeah, with so starting at the bottom, it's by release date. I think is how those are sorted. So yeah, the 68. So of the ones that are still being produced, those are what's on the page. So the original 68, which I did. What did I had discontinued those. They were discontinued for a couple of years, and then I decided I would do a limited run of 10. I think early last summer, and they sold out really fast. So I just decided to put them up and offer them in production again, and they sell regularly. That's it's a fairly pricey pedal. I mean, one of the reasons why I discontinued it and split the line to the 87 drive and the deluxe was to offer a lesser expensive option for people who like the sound of the 68, but didn't really care so much about the 2-channel thing. And then the deluxe, obviously, it's both the channels, foot switchable between the channels, plus an adjustable pre-gain boost in a slightly larger package. The 87, which is at the bottom right next to, yep, that one came out, I think that came out about 6 months after the original 68 drive. So both of those, the 87 is actually the longest running from beginning production. So it's about 4 years that one's been going. The 68, the original 68 drives, like I said, about 6 months, 6 to 3 months before that, something like that.
And those are your original pedals, right?
Yep, those are the original. Those are the original releases of those original circuits.
Were they the first pedals that you put out, or
they are not? They are not. I had when I first started doing pedals, I took a look at the market and said, "Wow, there's a lot of guys complaining about pedal board space. So let's do, tour worthy, high quality minis, hand built minis." And I think I had released maybe a half a dozen pedals, and they were selling okay. And then and I actually even, I don't know if you guys could see, this is a real rarity here. This is a 68 mini. Yeah. See if I can. Is it going to focus on it? Probably not. Here, going to focus? Can I focus? No. Nope. Wants my face instead. There. Well, it kind of did. So yeah, this is a 68 mini. And I think there's probably only about 50 of these in existence, especially with the push button switch in the middle. That I think I only did the first 25 that way, and then I went to a toggle switch after that. And this is the exact same thing as the original 68, but in a mini enclosure. And it same price. I actually, it's harder to build them, and there's much more labor involved trying to. It's like 10 pounds of stuff in a 5 pound bag. It's just
right.
Challenge. So anyway, there's that. See, there it is. Shiny. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the deluxe, which I just explained why I did that. The early ones, getting back to the early ones. See?
Yeah.
Right. So I did a run of the minis, and it was, I guess I was about 6 months into that when the Chinese manufacturers started releasing all their mini pedals for like $40-$50. And so the market quickly adjusted to reflect that mini pedals should be cheap. And so then I retooled and went to doing standard size pedals.
Gotcha. Brian was asking, is the 87 similar in any way to the Amp-Tweaker type metal junior?
The circuits are obviously different, but the end result of the sound is going to be fairly similar. Amp-Tweaker's some really nice stuff. That's although I'm trying to remember his name. The gentleman, he used to own Amp-Tweaker. He just sold it because I was talking to him at NAMM. He's part of the Fender design team now for I think the 5150. But I can't remember his name.
I feel like might have known it at one point. I can't think of it either.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Dead air. We'll move on. So the end of the end result, I think, are going to be pretty similar. He goes about getting the tones and the clipping a little bit different than the 87 does, because the 87 is FET based and the Amp-Tweaker type metal is op amp based. But he's doing similar things in the circuit, so the end result is fairly close. Don't know that directly answers the question, but
Jamie Brown is the name, or James Brown. Someone's saying in the chat. Yeah.
There we go. Good. Yeah, super nice guy. It was the first time I met him this year at NAMM. Yeah, he came over to the LPD booth and was checking stuff out and said hey, and chatted with him a while. Yeah, he said he was moving out here because we're going to be not neighbors. He's going to live in Scottsdale, I think is where him and his wife were moving to, and I'm in Mesa, so it's about 30 miles away.
Okay.
Cool.
So yeah, after all the cheap Chinese made minis hit the market, I just went to the standard size because people were still willing to pay the price that I could make a living doing them. So I did those, and then the minis that I have up there on the site I thought it'd be cool to do a single knob run of boost combination pedals that had like a local theme to them. So this is all like Southwestern themed stuff, right, for the names and for the artwork. And they did pretty well. Those are all being discontinued. I think I've maybe have about a half a dozen of each of those left, and then they'll be done. But I can do a quick description on them if you guys want.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Saguaro is a edge of breakup boost. My goal when I did it was not to make it sound like the way people use a Klon. But after having the prototype together and playing through it and A/Bing it against my Klon, I was like, hey, this is surprisingly similar. So it's nice. I don't know that I tried to market it that way, but it's a lot of guys have commented that it sounds very similar to the way that people use like the Klon as a edge of breakup kind of boost to push a Marshall.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see. I think the next one is the Choya. That's basically like a Class A amp, like an old Fender Tweed Deluxe or something like that. That's just on 10.
I like
and, yeah. On all of the single knobs except the Javelina, the knob does three separate things as you turn it up. It increases the boost level, which you would expect it to do, but it also increases the gain level, and it alters the EQ to compensate so that it, I don't know, stays in what I consider to be the sweet spot as you turn it up. See, the one next to it is the Palo Verde. That's a fuzz boost, which I don't know that there's too much more to say about that one, other than it's very fuzzy and it's very boosty.
Nice.
So it adds fuzz too. It doesn't just boost your singer; it's adding fuzz to the singer.
Yes. Just and the Choya adds like a Class A style overdrive as it's boosting. It's like the idea was to do some combination rather than just do a boost. I do just do a boost, but we'll talk about that one in a moment. So the Palo Verde is it's a fuzz boost, pretty Hendrixy. It's fun and it sounds fantastic in front of any kind of Marshall style circuit. It sounds really, really good. The Anasazi, that one's funny. No one has used it the way I intended it when I, to my knowledge, when I designed it. But so it's a clean boost that has it's filtered, so it takes all the frequencies below, say, 300 hertz and shelves them off. Just for a reference, a tube screamer shelves everything below about 750 hertz. So it's still got plenty of low end and low mid range, but it takes a lot of the bass out. At the same time, while it boosts the level, it also adds compression as you turn it up. My idea with that one was for the gent guys, right? Because one of the things that they'll do is they'll take like a PV5150 and they'll put a tube screamer in front of it. Tube screamer, the drive on the tube screamer all the way down, and using it as just a filter and maybe a boost sometime to filter that low end off. So that was the idea behind that. But to my knowledge, no one has ever that has bought it says, yeah, dude, this is gent. I love it. So most of the time people say that they love it on like really woolly sounding neck pickups because it'll take the mud out of it. It definitely does that. It will take the mud out. So for, like a solo boost in a busy mix, it works really good for that. Nice. And then the Javelina, which is actually one of my personal favorites. That one, into a Fender amp, I think it's SRV in a box. Put a Strat into it, into a nice clean Fender, and it does that SRV thing really, really well. The overdrive level is preset on it, so the knob just increases the level for like boost. So it's like a dirty boost. I would consider it like a dirty boost. And rather, again, accidentally, but still wonderfully, I dropped it in front of a Marshall Plexi when I was testing it, and get pretty close to early Van Halen with it. If you put that, so it's good. I like that one.
So out of the, let's just say, out of the mini boost here, that's probably your personal favorite.
Yeah, it would be probably a tie between the Javelina and the Saguaro.
Okay.
Yeah, for how I use a boost, yeah, it would be probably a toss up between those, and it depends on what I was using it for, right? Like if I have my Strat and I'm going to play blues, I'll use the Javelina for sure. But if I have humbuckers and I'm going to do something that I need just a little bit of dirt, but more push, I'll use the Saguaro. Because the Saguaro is definitely a lighter. It's right on that edge of breakup thing.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
What else we got? Then we got picks, and then we got the kit.
Right.
And then the pedal that I showed you, which is that pedal is the pedal that I built in the video that I put up for people to use as a guide. So yeah, once the kits are gone, if it's still hanging around, it'll sell or it won't, and it'll go in the archive. And then
That's probably I'm guessing maybe a fuzz pedal.
What's that?
The kit.
Oh,
overdrive.
Yeah,
right.
It's an overdrive boost. So
see it on the website. Very, very intuitive.
Yeah, so it's a clean boost with the switch in boost mode, and then kind of sort of a Timmy type overdrive in the overdrive mode.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. I think that one turned out really good, especially for as simple as the circuit is. And again, I'm not one of those guys that'll tell you that the more complex the circuit, the better it sounds. I believe it's completely the opposite. The more you can do with the fewest amount of parts usually sounds and feels the best. Occasionally you have to do crazy stuff to get features on, but from a circuit standpoint, yeah, if I can get great sounding things out of a half a dozen parts, I'll go with that, because there's just less things touching the signal, I suppose.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So then the last one on the page there is the Mugion clean boost, and it's full range clean boost with the knob full counterclockwise. It's buffer unity gain, and then full clockwise it's 27 dB boost, which is
a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. And yeah, that one was fun. That was an experiment in how to get as much clean boost out of a 9-volt supply as I could get, and 27 dB seems to be about it. There's a little bit of voodoo going on in there for it does a little bit of I don't know what you'd call it, rail shifting to keep the signal from hitting the power rails, because at 9 volts you only get, even with a rail-to-rail op amp, you only get about 4.5 volts of signal travel. It's not that much. It's not 27 dB. You have to do a little bit more, which is why a lot of the really high output boost pedals run at 18 volts. They have more headroom.
Right. That's impressive line. What I was kind of hoping to, being a little selfish here, I'm looking to try and figure out what I'd like to try first. I don't feel like I'm any closer to that. Jeez, they all look so good.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It looks like I skipped a couple too. Sorry. For a first one, we talked about the 74 earlier, just because it was the in the video, but I don't think I did a description on it. We talked about it before the show, but nobody else was there, so I should probably say it again. The 74. Well, and I don't know that I actually described the 68 or the 87 either, so I should probably include those. So the 68 is a 68 Marshall Plexi in a box. That's my favorite Plexi that I've ever owned, was a 68, and that's what I modeled that one after. The 87 that was at the bottom of the page was that one is in green mode, it's a JCM 800, a modded JCM 800, and in red mode, it's a modded Jose Arredondo Plexi. Both amps that, while I was in touring bands in California in the late 80s, had exposure to in the studios that we were recording in, because that's what everybody was using at the time. And so that's what that one was designed after. And then the 74 is my take on the very first Marshall master volume amplifiers, and the late 4-hole metal face Plexis. So still, yeah, 3 Marshalls in a box. You could say I like Marshalls. That might not be an understatement. Right? They are definitely my favorite amp. I do enjoy Mesa Boogies, but only the ones that are Marshall flavored. So, yeah, good Fender clean and a good Marshall overdrive, and I'm pretty happy. Let's see. I think the only one that I've left out then was the Vermin. That's my rat that's not a rat. So, right. So the problem with the rat is a great pedal. There's a reason it's an icon, right? It does a lot of peculiar things really well. But the parts for building them have been obsolete for probably 30 years now. You can still find them, but they're very expensive and very hard to find if you do find them. And there's a lot of counterfeits out there. So rather than going down the road of something like, like for example, from Big Ear Pedals, he has his woodcutter, which it still uses the original chips, original rat, and it's right. He took his model was like the best sounding that he could find, and then he basically that's what the woodcutter and it's a fantastic sounding pedal. Really, I think RJ just did a demo last week, just released a demo for it last week. It's a great pedal, and Grant's a great guy, so he deserves the publicity, sure. But rather than going down that road, what I wanted to do was try to get something that sounded like the great old Rats did without needing to find the obsolete parts, having to sort obsolete parts. So that Vermin is. Yeah, that's what the Vermin is. I think it gets pretty close. It gets pretty close. It's got, it's not like the new Rats tend to be kind of shrill. They're not fat and gooey like the old original was. And the original is like when you turn the gain all the way up, it was almost a fuzz pedal. There was just some, right. There's a lot of compression and sag and some low mid smearing going on in there that just made them like accidentally cool. Again, I'm sure the circuit designer didn't go, yeah, this is what I'm going for. But you're right. He probably said, no, we're going to design an American-made distortion pedal, and we're going to sell it for not a lot of money, and it just took off. People loved it. So, yeah, the Vermin is just my take on the rat that's not a rat.
I like the name. I think it's good.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the artwork on that is, oh man, you'd think I'd remember names, but I don't. 60 Cycle Hum, Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum.
Ryan Burke. Yeah,
that is his.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome. So, wow. That's an impressive pedal line. And I'm looking at time. We're at 48 minutes, which is crazy. So Pat, I think now that we've gone through the whole pedal line, like what you have to offer, I think the question that we've been asking a lot, I don't know, Pat, if you want to ask that or go down that trip, go in that direction, this would be a good time to do that, I guess is what I'm getting at.
You might have to spoon feed me with which of the 5 brilliant questions I know.
Well, no, I mean, with the whole reason that we started this episode, the whole reason we started doing this series really was to find out what was going on with the people that are making the pedals that we like. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I might go slightly that direction because you did talk a little bit about that you're still able to build and you had just stocked up. Maybe some things were hard to get and they're coming in. So it sounds like you're able to continue on. But I always find it interesting. We found it almost exclusively that people came at this business for something they wanted to do, like for themselves. Like, I don't know exactly what the genesis of yours is, but almost everyone we've talked to, Wampler, Josh Scott, pick a name. I modded something, built myself something. Somebody's like, what is that? Can you build me one? Yeah. You know, is that sort of how
that is
you started as well?
Formula. Yeah, right. That seems to be the try true. I don't know that it's a formula. I don't think if you started off that you would be able to make it work, but it seems to be the way that it does work. And it's actually happened twice for me because I had a custom tube amp side business that I was doing 2006 to 2008 that started off exactly that way. I was using rack gear, and so I sought out and picked up an old Marshall head. And then, it sounded great, but it didn't sound like I remember my old Marshall heads like. So then I started modding it, and I got it to where I remembered mine sounding like, and then some friends heard it, and then I modded theirs, and it just kind of went from there. And then 2008, the bottom fell out of everything, and I retooled to do the pedal thing. And then the pedal thing was the same kind of thing. I started off just doing mine designs, right? I think my favorite pedal to mod is the Boss SD1. I mean, it sounds fantastic stock, but there's so much that you can do with that circuit. You can turn it into a bone stock tube screamer. You can get into a Clay Jones overdrive pretty easily. You can build a Maxon OD820 out of it pretty easily. There's tons of things you can do with that. You can make it a clean boost. It's a very versatile circuit. So I did that. I was doing at the time, true bypass conversions were a huge thing, especially with the Boss pedal. Mm-hmm. And I developed a system that allowed the pedal to be true bypass and still use the without drilling any holes in it. Still looks stock. And I did a bunch of those for local guys here, and it just kind of took off from there. I did I modified some fuzz faces and guys like those, and I did here I've got this one. There was a gentleman that had, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a Clay Jones overdrive is, the CGOD. There's a great story out there on the web about Clay Jones and how that all came about. But Landgraf Dynamic Overdrive was probably the first boutique tube screamer. The Clay Jones Overdrive is basically a clone of that with some tweaks that I think there were only I think Clay only made 50 of them before he moved on to do other stuff, but they fetch like $1,500 for the originals. They're really stupid expensive. But I had someone approach me and say, "Hey, I've got this pedal and I love it, but I don't want to take it out on tour. It's just too valuable." He says, "Oh, and by the way, can you make it mini?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do it." So then I did, and again, I built two for him. His friends then contacted me, and I wound up building probably 100 of those things.
Wow.
So yeah, it's done the same kind of thing, growing that way. And eventually you get to a point, I mean, I guess it depends on personality. For me, I was like, okay, this modding thing is great, but really curious if I can design something on my own that would be something that people would want, and maybe get lucky and build an icon. That's the dream, right?
Right.
And the 68 drive was my first, that was my first original circuit. And I think it did pretty well. I don't know if it'll ever be coming on. It'd be nice, right? Everybody wants to leave. So, but it's good, and it's definitely sold well, and I don't know that it'll be leaving my production line anytime soon. But yeah, I tend to try to go towards more original things rather than reinventing the wheel.
Right.
That's I don't offer a clone, the Centaur clone. There's just like so many of them there. Right. It just doesn't make any sense unless I was going to do something kind of with it, Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another question, like you referred to, playing and touring and that kind of thing. And we've also found that most of the pedal manufacturers have a playing background, many of them pretty accomplished players. Like, what were your influences? What kind of music did you guys play in the band? Like, what are some things you've done in that realm?
Influence Well, let's see. So I've been a professional musician for about 35 years. I did. I came up through the 80s, so played all the hair stuff, and then just kept getting heavier as I would go along. So Metallica, the funk metal, all that stuff. I'm definitely I enjoy heavier music, playing heavier music, especially live. It's more fun. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think Randy Rhoads, the first guitar player that made me want to pick up a guitar and play guitar, not just to have girls look at me, It's like, wow, no, this is cool. That's like music. This is like really cool stuff. It's not just like, look at all the girls in the front row staring at the guitar player.
Right.
Which they never do anyway. You don't realize that until you get on stage and you realize they're like looking at the drummer, right? So.
Yeah. Or somewhere the lead singer's in that line of sight somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Maybe they got a lazy eye or something. You're like, I think she's looking at me.
Right?
Yes.
No, man, the third girl from the right. I swear she's looking at me.
I know she is.
Dude, she's not. She's looking through you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did the music scene thing pretty from about 85 to like 92-ish, playing in bands and touring and stuff like that. And then I decided I would go to music college. So from 92 to early 95, I went to Musicians Institute in Hollywood. I went through their GIT program, and then they had just opened up their pilot, a 2-year degree program, and went through that while I was working there. So did that. That was definitely a life-changing experience. I would recommend that for anybody who.
Who were some of the instructors? Who were some of the instructors at that point, or maybe you studied under or came in and did clinics? Because I know that list is pretty impressive sometimes coming through GIT.
Yeah, it could be a who. Sean Lane came through while I was there. Steve Morris came through.
Yeah.
Yngwie came through, did a show. Paul Bert was hanging a bit. Trying to think. Joey Tafoya, I don't know if you guys know him. Nicest guy on the planet. He was a shrapnel artist from the 80s. He kind of came in at the end of the wave and didn't get a whole lot of traction. Really super nice guy and amazingly good guitar player. Marty Friedman. A lot of guys coming through. The guys who were there that were part of the faculty rather than guest faculty, who were some of my favorite. Ann Gilbert, amazing fusion player and really awesome teacher. Also, he is. I'll remember his name in a minute. I hate this name thing. Yeah. Nope, I won't.
We'll call it quarantine brain.
Yes. Well, it'll be one of those things. I'll just blurt it out because if I'm thinking about it, it's never going to be there.
You'll sit up in the middle of the night screaming somebody's name.
Here it is, Keith Wyatt. He was the head of the blues department there, and went on to become the head of the entire guitar department. Fantastic blues player. He came from, the reason that I related so well with Keith was he came from a heavy music background. He played hard rock, and then he discovered the blues and pretty much quit playing anything but the blues, and just kind of dove into the blues head first. And amazing player. He's got a really great self-instructional series out there. I think it's called Blues Basics and Beyond, something like that. It's fantastic for people who want to pick up a book and dabble in the blues for sure.
Cool.
So are you still playing out at all, or?
I haven't played out in a little while. After I got married and became a father, I turned everything. I know, right? They'll do it.
kids and wives.
Yep.
Daddy,
Well,
why does your hair
Play
look
guitar
like
to get the girl, you get the girl, and then you can't play guitar. Come on.
It's a horrible formula.
Yeah, right. So rather than I didn't really want to miss the dad things, so I converted everything rather than going out and touring and playing live a bunch. I opened a teaching academy, and so started doing that for bread and butter. So still playing today, still just not, instead of being in front of lots of people playing, I'm in front of one person playing, and they're learning how to play, and it's a different kind of rewarding for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
you're guaranteed that person's looking at you.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, even the lazy eye, they're still going to look right at you.
Their head might be cocked to the side, but they'll find you.
Sit over there.
Yeah.
That's good. All right.
So how's that working right now? Are you still able to teach maybe online or something right now, or?
Yeah, about I guess 7 weeks ago, I moved everybody over to video, which it stinks. Let's be honest. If you've done face-to-face lessons, there's an emotional energy connection with the person in the room, and it's easy to explain concepts because of that connection. As soon as you go video, it all goes away, and it's much more difficult, in my opinion, an experience. It's much more difficult to get those concepts across quickly and concisely. It takes more verbal communication because the body language isn't there. Right. But yeah, I still have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I still have the same days. It's lighter. There were a good number of people who decided they didn't want to try the video thing, but have reassured me that they want to start back up when we're back person to person. So yeah, it's rough, but you got to do what you got to do these days.
Yes.
So keeping an eye on the time here, and we're right at an hour, and when we ask people to do these, we tell them an hour, so we try to stick to that. I do want to say, coming up tomorrow, we have Bosco France on to join us, and Bosco plays some of your pedals.
Yes, love Bosco, amazing player.
Yeah. Like he
is. Oof.
If you don't know who Bosco is, definitely come tomorrow, because the guy, he's a blues player. But I think that, to me, calling somebody a blues player never really does them an injustice, because I love the blues. But if you're not like really a blues fan and you go, blues, another blues guy, like he's really well-rounded and slips
Bosco
all the genres in there.
Bosco can shred.
Right.
When he cuts loose, it is. I watch him play and I'm like, how did you just do that? It's like, because the way he plays is fairly unique. Yeah. Right. And I think it's because of the background that he comes from, and he's amazing player. Really, really enjoy Bosco stuff.
He'll drop in chicken picking, then he'll drop in some Eric Johnson leads, and then he'll jump in some Delta blues. Then he'll pick up the slide and kill on the slide, and he's an amazing guy. So definitely want to be here for that. And then to go just on Wednesday we have Shane Spiel, who's kind of what's being considered the king of the cigar box guitar. So I don't know if that's self-proclaimed or not, but if it is, it shouldn't be, because he really is. I know Ben Combs has had a cigar box on his channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Shane Spiel, literally.
He wrote a book.
Literally wrote a book, right?
There it is.
Guitars. He has been in the cigar box thing for a long time, well before it was popular, and super connected, known all over the place. Has his fingers in all kinds of things, from slides to cigar boxes to microphones. Stop by and check him out. I think he'll.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and like I said, down in the comments, we got links to all of Lawrence's stuff. So make sure you follow him on Instagram and Facebook, or I think it was Instagram and YouTube, and
just Instagram and YouTube.
Right, and I think your website's down there too.
Yeah,
but with all that, thank you so much for spending an hour with us, man. That was really nice of you, because I know you're busy. Like,
thanks for having me.
I know we're all staying at home right now, but Lawrence is working.
Yeah. It's. I was talking to Phil McKnight today, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm any less busier. I'm just getting paid less."
Yes, right. Yeah.
So
sad but true.
Right?
right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that's I think that's just how it is. Keep our fingers crossed that it resolves quickly.
Right.
Pat, before I send it over to you, I do want to mention, because we've been I haven't been ignoring the chat. I've been trying to watch what's going on, and there's some people talking about your pedals and stuff. But Sean Zimmerman and Ben Tom showed up. Guitar Hacks here, Terry Himes. I mean, these are names that we know from some other channels and from this channel, and Music Therapy, Terry, Jay Steen. So I just wanted to make sure people knew that we saw that they were in here. And I don't... Here I go. We're ending it, and then I go down the rabbit hole. I do wanted to say to you, Lawrence, at some point, because we mentioned it the other day when we were kind of previewing this week. One of the reasons that I really wanted to get to know you better and get you on the show and stuff, I was watching a video. I was watching a live stream. You were in the live stream. I'm not going to say whose channel, who it was, but you were in the live stream. There was another pedal manufacturer on. And he just was a little arrogant. And the way that you handled that, I just thought was so classy. And so Pat and I love to support guys that are not only making cool things and doing cool business, but are stand-up dudes too. So just wanted to give you some kudos for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I remember that well. What are you going to do? So everybody handles things differently. And that particular instance was... I laughed about it afterwards,
Well, just so you know, because I wanted you to know that, when you left that video, the person that you wanted to buy a pedal from was you, not the guy that was on the live.
Nice. Well, hopefully, yeah. That's
so
good.
Maybe I'm not supposed to bring that up, but like I said, I'm not going to say what channel it was on or who it was or anything like that. Some people might remember it, but and
I appreciate that. I do. I appreciate that. It's you try to, if you're in this game long enough, like coming up through doing the music thing, if you're in this game long enough, you know that, yeah, it seems like the jerks are the ones who get there fastest, but they don't last. That stuff doesn't last. You got to be good to people. You got to build relationships. You got to be honest, have integrity, right? That's what it's all about.
Right. Yeah. And the amount that you're involved in the different chats and the different things that go on, I mean, it just speaks to what you're doing as your company. So we just appreciate that. So I just wanted to end with that.
Yeah. And I'll just dovetail on that as I'm about to sign us off here that, we do appreciate that. And we also think that, probably many people in the chat are familiar with you already, but we always think that if people can connect with the person behind the product, they'd be more apt to engage that company and that product. And so that's part of what we want to pull out in these discussions about who you are and what drives you and what you do and your thought that goes into things. So it was really great to get to know you today. We really appreciate you coming on, and we'll threaten to maybe do this again at some point, but and we'll promise to buy some products to talk about by the time we have you on again.
Very cool. Well, and hopefully that elusive tweed pedal will.
That's the one Jason's waiting for.
We'll make it your way. Yes.
There was another one that I was thinking about getting, and when you said you were building one, I'm like, all right, I'm not getting. I'm waiting. That's what I'm going to get.
So, with that, again, thanks to Lawrence for coming on. Thanks to everybody that tuned in and chimed in. But with that, I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear. Peace out.
Ben's giving himself away in the chat. Don't do that.